Hey folks, Pastor Joe coming to you today, Wednesday. We're into a new month, and there's lots of things happening, lots of things going on. I just listened to the governor proclaim that on Friday, June 5th, that we're going to phase 2 in the coronavirus protocols, which is great. It means basically everything is open, which incidentally leads me to two really great announcements that I want to make to you today. First one just happens to coincide with phase 2. So on June 5th, when everything's supposed to open up into phase 2, we are doing the last of our big drive-through dinners. This is going to be a special, very special barbecue dinner. It'll happen this Friday, that would be June 5th, from 5 to 6 o'clock. Drive through like we've done before. And if you are taking meals to somebody, if you're taking more than 5 meals, we just say, call the church, let us know. We're trying to make sure we have the meals set aside to make the line go quicker this time, so we don't have all the anybody waiting, just be able to come through. But we're also going to be handing out communion kits. So even though we're going to public worship, which is my next big announcement, we're going to public worship, some folks we know may not be ready to come back. So we're handing out communion cups to anybody that is not planning on coming to the public worship. So you can worship with us virtually, but you'll have that communion kit at home. So 2 things there on this Friday, the June 5th, 5 to 6 o'clock, drive through, get your meals. Get one to take to a friend. That's perfectly fine. We've prepared really a lot of meals. So, and also if you need a communion cup, just ask. If you're not coming to worship, they'll hand it to you and you're off on your way. So, second big announcement. That was number 1. Number 2, June 7th. That would be the weekend of this barbecue. On that Sunday, we will be opening to public worship. So that is our big date for folks that are comfortable to come in. There are some special protocols, and we have signage, we have teams set up, we have sanitation stations. It's all taken care of. I think you'll feel very comfortable if you come. So that will be this Sunday, public worship. Public worship returns, our 9 o'clock service and our 11 o'clock service. I hope if you're comfortable with that, to come out, just pay attention to some of the signage and to the teams that are there to help you. There's been quite a process in getting this together, as you know, to follow all of the proper protocols and to make sure that the sanctuary is set up for this kind of worship. Even though now we're into phase 2, we still have to follow the protocols. So we've been actively working to get the sanctuary right. We want to get the sanctuary prepared, make sure everything is just right for this public worship under the phase 2 protocols. As we've done that, you're going to see there's some changes. There aren't hymnals. There's nothing in the pews. Offering will be done differently. There's some things we're doing differently, but we're trying to get it right, to make it right. Now, I don't know about you. I'm kind of a DIY guy, do it yourself. Basically, I'm very cheap, so I do it myself. So I'm really into these do-it-yourself shows. Maybe you are too. There's a guy up in Canada, Mike Holmes. He has a show called Homes on Homes. Maybe you've seen it, where he goes in and he fixes the problems that have been left over from previous contractors in construction. And his motto is, make it right. And as soon as I thought about making the sanctuary right, boom, that show about homes on homes, making these homes right, just popped into my head. It's these construction projects, as I said, and his thing is to go back and fix the stuff where somebody else maybe they did it improperly. His thing is no shortcuts, don't hide mistakes behind walls, get it right, make it right. And as we head toward this public worship on Sunday, June 7th, I think that's a word for us today, a little devotional word, is about making it right. For the people of faith, I believe making it right is part of our core beliefs, especially with what we're seeing happening all over our country, not just some of the violent outbreaks from protest, but maybe things that have gone on for a long time. Making it right is the Christian way. Because faith, our faith, as followers of Jesus Christ, is about living, get this, within the righteousness, the rightness, right? The right making of Jesus. Jesus pulls us into his righteousness, so we get to make it right, right? We're joined in with Christ, and that righteousness becomes part of what we're about, and then we, in turn, work toward that kind of living. So I wanted to leave you with a word today. Not exactly to, I have no hopes of, I don't have any great, perfect words to say in light of what we see happening across the country and some of the history that's led to this. But I thought there is a word for Christians that is helpful, and if it lends itself towards some of what's going on today for you, then that would be a good thing. So I want to read you a little passage out of Romans. Paul's speaking about righteousness, what that really means, what it means for people of faith as opposed to those outside of faith. And this is coming out of chapter 6, verses 12 through 14. Just listen real quick to these words. Therefore, do not let sin exercise dominion in your mortal bodies to make you obey their passions. If I'm thinking about that Holmes on Holmes, he's saying, hey, don't let problems that have been created remain to exist. You got to get these things right. Make it right. He says, verse 13, no longer present your members to sin as instruments of wickedness, but present yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and present your members to God as instruments of righteousness. For sin will have no dominion over you, since you are not under the law, but under grace. That word, instruments of righteousness, I hope speaks a word to all of us. Wherever you come down with what you're feeling right now, or maybe political points of view, there is a common ground, and that is the righteousness of Jesus Christ, the one who makes it right, takes the brokenness and begins to move us from, to use the analogy of the home repair place, something that's kind of a bit messed up, a bit thrown together, and making it right, helping to make the human condition more righteous by us being embedded in the life of Christ. And therefore, all Christians can be instruments of righteousness. Now, you might find different ways to express that, but I think we have to own part of this as we talk about being in a right relationship with Jesus Christ and putting our own lives at the disposal of the kingdom of God for God's purposes in the world. So I hope maybe you can consider today what it means to be instruments of righteousness in our own personal lives, our own personal interactions. Even if you want to pull it away from some of the things that are going on in the country right now, every one of us has the ability to be instruments of righteousness for Jesus' sake. Be it somebody down on their luck, somebody going through a tough time, somebody experiencing their sense of injustice. We all have ways of loving, and maybe that's the greatest word, right? Maybe that's the best way of being instruments of righteousness, by loving. Because Paul says, for sin, this brokenness that we live today and have been under for a long time, it no longer has to control us, because now we live under grace. And that means love. So I don't know if that helps at all. Helps me a little bit to understand my own place as I continue to live a life of Christ, or at least I try, or as my buddy says, stumble toward it. So maybe you'll stumble with me toward this this idea of being instruments of righteousness. See you at the barbecue drive-through. We have so much food. It's going to be wonderful. And we'll see you in public worship. If not, we'll see you in spirit through our live stream. We're going to continue to do the virtual worship that goes forever. So we'll see you then.